You check your bank account, and there's $4,300 sitting there. On paper, that's not nothing, but you don't feel stable. You feel like you're one bad week away from panic. One car repair, one dentist bill, one slow month at work, and that number could be cut in half before you even notice it happening. So you keep working. You keep telling yourself you'll really start saving once things calm down. But things never calm down. There's always a reason, a wedding, a vet bill, a rent increase. And every single time, the goalpost for feeling okay just moves a little further away. Meanwhile, you scroll past people online saying things like, just buy assets, or make your money work for you. And you think, work for me with what? I have $4,300 and a car that makes a weird noise now. Nobody explains the part that actually matters, which is that there's a very specific number where your relationship with money fundamentally changes. Not because you're rich, not because your problems disappear, but because your brain starts operating differently. That number is $10,000. And today, I want to break down exactly why it matters, what it actually does to your decision-making, and how to get there, even if saving feels impossible right now. My name is Jack. If you're someone who feels like you're working hard, but somehow never actually getting ahead, hit subscribe and give this video a thumbs up if it helps. Most people assume the number that changes your life is $1 million. And sure, $1 million changes things. Very insightful, Jack. But here's what almost nobody talks about. The first $10,000 changes your behavior more than the next $90,000 does. Going from $0 to $10,000 isn't really about the money. It's about removing panic, and panic is expensive. When you have no cushion, every single problem becomes a crisis. A flat tire becomes a credit card balance. A late paycheck becomes overdraft fees. A rough month becomes a payday loan. A miserable job becomes something you tolerate because leaving feels too dangerous. But somewhere around $10,000, something shifts. You're not wealthy. You're not made it. But you're no longer standing in a storm with nothing on. You finally have a jacket. Let's talk about what's actually happening in your head at $0 saved. Your brain lives in defense mode constantly. You check prices before you even walk into a store. You avoid opening certain emails. You feel a flicker of guilt after buying something completely normal. You say yes to shifts, projects, or people you don't actually want to deal with because you can't afford to say no. And the cruelest part is that this stress doesn't just sit quietly in the background. It actively makes your decisions worse. When you're financially stressed, your thinking gets short-term. You stop asking, what's smart for my future, and start asking, what gets me through Friday? That's how people end up trapped. Credit cards, bad loans, underpaid jobs they're afraid to leave. Not because they're bad with money, but because stress narrows the brain's field of vision. This is why the first $10,000 matters so much. It creates space. And space might be the most underrated financial asset that exists. Space lets you pause before a decision instead of reacting to it. Space lets you ask, wait, is this actually smart? Instead of, does this get me through the week? That pause alone can save you thousands of dollars over a lifetime. Now let's look at the actual math, because this is where it gets real. Picture two people, same income, same expenses. Person A has $400 saved. Person B has $10,000 saved. Both get hit with the same $1,300 car repair. For person A, this is a genuine disaster. It likely goes on a credit card. At 20-something% interest, making minimum payments, that repair doesn't stay $1,300. It quietly grows. It becomes a monthly obligation. It becomes stress that follows them into next month and the month after that. For person B, the same repair is annoying. Nobody's thrilled about it. But it's not a disaster. Their savings drops from $10,000 to $8,700. Then they rebuild. Same emergency, two completely different lived experiences. That's the entire $10,000 rule in one example. Money doesn't just buy things, it buys options. And when you have zero options, ordinary life gets expensive fast. Here's something people rarely say out loud. Most financial disasters aren't exotic. A car breaks, a phone dies, rent goes up, a client pays late, hours get cut. These aren't rare events, they're just life. But without a cash buffer, ordinary life becomes financial trauma, and that's exactly when people start making decisions out of fear instead of strategy. They borrow from the wrong sources. They sell things they still need. They take jobs they can't stand. With $10,000, those same events shrink down to inconveniences. Think of it like a boxer. No savings means every punch drops you. $10,000 means you can absorb the hit, step back, and keep moving. Not glamorous, just effective. Now maybe you're thinking, Jack, I can barely save $500. How am I supposed to get to $10,000? Fair. And honestly, the first $10,000 is the hardest chunk you'll ever save. Not because the number itself is impossible, but because you're fighting two battles simultaneously: the math and your own identity. If you've never held on to real money before, your brain doesn't trust the process yet. You save $300, then something urgent comes up. You hit $800, then you reward yourself for hitting $800. This is why reaching $10,000 isn't really a math problem. It's an identity shift. You have to stop being someone who's trying to save and become someone who simply doesn't touch the foundation. That's a different person, and that person isn't built by motivation. Motivation is great for about 9 days before real life shows up and tests it. Don't picture $10,000 as one giant, intimidating pile. Break it into 3 layers. Layer 1 is your emergency shield, roughly $1,000 to $2,000. This absorbs the small stuff: a repair, a broken laptop, an urgent bill. It's the difference between a bad day and a bad year. Layer 2 is your stability fund, around $3,000 to $6,000. This buys you 1 to 2 months of basic living expenses if income disappears. This is what gives you real breathing room. Layer 3 is your opportunity fund, everything above that. This is where things start getting interesting, because once you're stable, your brain finally has bandwidth to look for opportunity instead of just survival. A course, new equipment, a move for a better job, room to negotiate because you're no longer desperate. Speaking of desperation, let's talk about work. With no savings, your job has too much power over you. Hours get changed on you, respect gets thin, pay feels unfair. And you stay anyway because you need next Friday's paycheck too badly to risk anything. But with $10,000 in the bank, you carry yourself differently. Not arrogant, not reckless, just calmer. You can negotiate. You can walk from a bad offer. You can survive a gap between jobs. And that calm is actually valuable because desperation is easy to smell. Employers smell it, clients smell it, and desperate people accept less. A cushion lets you negotiate from strength instead of fear. Here's a mistake a lot of people make: trying to invest before they're stable. Investing matters, a lot. But if you have zero emergency fund and throw every spare dollar into the market, you'll likely end up selling those investments the first time life gets uncomfortable. That's not investing. That's temporarily parking your rent money in stocks and hoping nothing goes wrong. The first $10,000 is what gives you the emotional stability to actually invest properly, to watch the market drop 15%, and not panic sell because your car needs a new alternator. Say you build that $10,000 foundation, then invest $300 a month for 30 years at an average 7% annual return. You're looking at north of $360,000. But that only works if you stay consistent, and consistency is dramatically easier when your life isn't one flat tire away from collapse. Here's the twist nobody warns you about. Hitting $10,000 can also make people act strange. Suddenly there's 5 figures in the account and the brain whispers, "I deserve a vacation," or "I should finally get the nicer car." I'm not against enjoying money. Money should improve your life. But the first $10,000 isn't a shopping signal, it's a foundation. You wouldn't pour a foundation for a house and then rip half of it out to buy a couch. That's exactly what happens when people raid their new savings the moment it feels substantial. This is why you need a rule. Once you cross $10,000, that money becomes boring money. Not vacation money. Not, "I saw a deal online" money. Boring, quiet, foundation money. And ironically, boring money is what makes the rest of your life more exciting, because your foundation stops producing emergencies. So how do you actually get there? Let's make it practical. First, pick a real monthly number, not a fantasy one. $250 a month gets you to $10,000 in about 40 months. $500 a month gets you there in 20. $1,000 a month gets you there in 10. That might sound slow, but slow progress is still progress. Most people stay stuck because they quit slow progress after 2 months of not feeling rich yet. Second, automate it. Don't wait to save what's left over at the end of the month, because there won't be anything left. Pay yourself first, the moment income lands. Third, separate the account. Don't keep emergency savings sitting next to your everyday spending money. That's like keeping cookies on your desk and promising you'll only eat them during emergencies. Fourth, use windfalls wisely. Tax refunds, bonuses, side income. Most people use these to upgrade their lifestyle. Use them to upgrade your foundation instead. One well-placed $1,000 bonus can save you months of grinding. Fifth, go after the big leaks, not just the small ones. Coffee isn't what's keeping you broke. Housing, car payments, and food delivery habits usually are. Let me tell you about 2 friends, Dana and Marcus. Both earn about the same. Dana keeps saying she'll start once she earns more. Marcus decides to save $500 a month, no matter what. Month 1, nothing looks different. Month 6, Marcus has $3,000. Dana has a nicer closet. Then Marcus's car breaks down. $1,400 repair. Paid in cash. Annoying, but done. A few months later, Dana's car breaks down too. Same repair. Put on a credit card. Now a monthly payment she's still dealing with a year later. 20 months in, Marcus crosses $10,000. And he's different now. Not because he's rich, but because he trusts himself. He proved he can set a goal and hit it. That trust is worth more than the number itself, because once you prove you can build $10,000, building $20,000 stops feeling impossible. Here's the real shift. Before $10,000, money is mostly defense. After $10,000, money starts becoming offense. Before, you're reacting to emergencies. After, you're planning around opportunities. Before, the question is, can I survive this? After, it becomes, what can I build next? That question changes everything. Because wealth isn't built by one brilliant decision. It's built by having enough stability to make better decisions, over and over again. I know $10,000 can feel impossible from zero, but every real financial turnaround starts the same way, with a decision that you're done being one emergency away from panic. You don't need to be perfect. You don't need to hit it this month. You just need to start, $100 at a time, one decision at a time, and eventually your bank account changes. But more importantly, you change. You stop seeing yourself as someone who's always behind and start seeing yourself as someone who can build. If this helped you look at money a little differently, hit subscribe, drop a thumbs up, and let me know in the comments. Where's your savings sitting right now? $1,000? $5,000? $10,000? Wherever you're starting, the goal is the same. Build the foundation first, then build the future.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Make sure to hit that subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up. I really appreciate your support. It helps me create Meant for You. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.